It's Friday. Good Friday. Well, not Good Friday, but it's a good Friday nonetheless.
It's always a good Friday on the XFL Markcast, now potentially called the CFL Markcast. Easiest episode title I've ever had to come up with, the CFL Markcast, question mark. Mark Perry, our commander-in-chief, let us know that he already owns CFLnewshub.com. So if we have to go that route, really? we are on the right ship and we will be taken care of. So
you need to start buying some domains yourself. Let's not advertise the domains you have, but you might want to start buying them.
I got a lot of domains. I was telling Paul before we started, tremendous interest today across the board. I've had more people. Just had someone on Facebook like 20 minutes ago. Hey, do you guys have any thoughts? Don't want to spoil the podcast, so I have not shared my thoughts about anything to anybody about this. I will say, please, at the top of the show, I have done more work in the last 2 days on this, blew off all my adult responsibilities yesterday with my actual job. I've read like every Canadian article and listened to the news reports and stuff. And I tweeted last night about this. So if you appreciate this, xflshow.com/review. If you see the podcast on Twitter, share the link. If you see the YouTube video, give it a thumbs up. All these things don't cost any money, but like I spent out all day yesterday till 10 o'clock last night reading through everything to make sure that we could have the best show today.
You said you read through every Canadian article. Did you read the ones in French as well?
I did. I got very deep into the Canadian sports talk on YouTube. And thank you so much, to our listeners that message me. You guys know who you are, that have sent me, different stuff about everything. I really appreciate it. And I really want to do the best job we can covering this. I know there's lots of speculation. We're going to have thoughts, and then I've got a lot of, details and stuff to go through. So thank you.
Also, next week, I will not be on the show. I'm having oral surgery done. That's why I'm kind of if you see me grimace from time to time, I've got a little bit of a toothache. It's nothing big, but I'm going to get that done this weekend. And I probably will not be on the XFL Markcast or CFL Markcast if that's the way things go next week. So Reid will have to get someone who is better to co-host, and then that's pretty easy. So we're good to go.
Yeah. So and hopefully I don't annoy Paul more than his horrible toothache today. So I tried to organize everything in a clear way. I said if we need to yada yada some stuff at the end, because this is a deal. Like I built the whole show all week. We had tons of stuff. We were going to order Zoa energy drinks. We were going to do taste tests. We were going to do all this kind of stuff. And then this news dump came yesterday. So we still have all this stuff on there. So if we got to yada yada some stuff at the end, that's great. But I build the show all week, and then literally we have this news dump of the CFL stuff. Just before we get into all this stuff, I am going to be on Mark's XFL News Hub podcast next week. We're going to do a writers roundtable on Monday. We're part of that family of content producers. I know like Josh Davis and Matt and Anthony and Mark and Mike Mitchell are all going to be on a writers roundtable, and then they asked me to come on, so I'm very grateful for that. So that'll be on the XFL News Hub YouTube on Monday. And then also we still have our giveaway going on. So free to subscribe on YouTube. When we hit 1,000, we added like 10 subscribers in the last week. Paul has purchased us a Chad Ochocinco, not purchased, has acquired a Chad Ochocinco signed football. And so we're going to be giving that away, friend of the show, which funny enough, Chad Ochocinco relates back to our history in the CFL in the funniest way. So, if you are, just again, a lot of work on this. It doesn't cost you $1 just to subscribe on YouTube and bump those numbers up. Give it a thumbs up. Ton of thumbs up last week. I was having a down week. Tons of comments, tons of everything. I don't think Fan Control Football agrees with our takes on everything, but a lot of our listeners do. We got a lot of positive comments. So even if Fan Control Football does not appreciate some of the comments that we have, I know that our listeners do.
Speaking of Fan Control Football, we got Brayton Smith coming up. He was the quarterback who won Game 3 when Johnny Manziel went out, and then he won Game 4 with that pass to Josh Gordon. Of course, all the focus has been on Josh Gordon this week. We're going to talk to Brayton, the quarterback that threw the ball and give him some hype that is well deserved. That is well deserved for Braden Smith.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of on brand for us. We've been not against, but just hesitant about some of the NFL guys coming in and taking the spotlight. And so I hit up Braden the other day. I said, has anyone talked to you this week? Have you gotten any requests? And so he's going to be coming on here in a little bit. So I appreciate that. And again, we're love of the football and the players and just trying to give the spotlight on that. So I appreciate him coming on. And we'll have some good fan controlled football discussion after all this CFL, XFL stuff.
Yeah. So this kind of blew up the show this week. Reid had it all set up, everything ready to go. And then I didn't turn my phone off last night. I didn't put it on Do Not Disturb, and I get a barrage of text messages that wake me up. Of course, not feeling well. No offense to Reid. Reid was not annoying me. He didn't know the situation I was going through with my tooth. But all of a sudden, this whole thing with CFL blew up. And this came out of nowhere. I didn't expect this.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I want to know, I still have my XFL Black Friday hat on, as we have still not had actual news from anything. We've had some statements come out and we've had all that. So Mark and I are going to be in solidarity, still wearing the hat. The funniest thing is I was sitting there, I was just getting ready to get up. I get my emails done in the morning, laying in bed with the dog Rosie. And I see this article come out from the Alouettes, the president of the CFL team, Mario Ciccinini.
You have a problem with like these Italian names.
Magliochetti. Jeff Magliochetti.
Got that one. You go.
So he had come out. Basically, he jumped the gun, came out with this news article, press release from the Alouettes saying like, "Hey, the XFL and CFL are announcing this partnership. Don't worry, it's not going to have any effect on our season, whatever." So luckily, some of our listeners screenshotted some of the things because I was getting ready to tweet it, and like the link, it was already gone. Like the XFL had come out, pulled it, whatever. So then we started thinking like, okay, is it going to happen today? Is it going to happen this week? Like, what's going to happen with the CFL stuff? And then like 5 minutes later, XFL came out. They had updated the website. They have a new XFL Today section. CFL released a statement. They had 3 statements, from Randy, who is the CFL commissioner, Danny, who her official title now, which I think is what she's been using on Twitter, but now it's on the website. She is the XFL chairwoman and owner. And then Jeffrey Pollock is officially the XFL president and CEO. So it's kind of cool to see all of those titles come out as well. Anyway, so initial thoughts on this partnership, and then I got lots of stuff to get into, Paul.
Initial thoughts on this partnership, I guess it's cool. It gives Canadian Football League a footprint in the U.S., so to speak. There's 10 CFL teams?
9.
You get 9 XFL teams. What we're at 8 now. You add one more, you have like 2 divisions, and then you have like a Grey Cup game. Maybe the Grey Cup becomes the trophy for both CFL and XFL. It's like a merger. This kind of makes me feel like I've always thought that there shouldn't be competition. Like all these leagues should complement the NFL. But this makes it feel like this is a situation where these 2 leagues are trying to a little bit compete now. Now there's some competition. If these 2 leagues merge, I see some ideas where they're going to compete with the NFL and not necessarily compete on the same weeks, so to speak. Like they're not going to go, we're going to start in August and go till February. No, like March through July, you'll have CFL, XFL, combined. That makes me think that like there's some potential here for a real legitimate second football league that will fill in the gaps where the NFL isn't, and that that will be profitable.
Yeah, I think there's a scale here. Nobody knows, and I guess the best thing about this right now is I don't have to wake up on Friday to like you're wrong tweets because nobody knows right now, right? This is all speculation. To me, I look at it as a scale, right? So for at the bare minimum. You could think about like, maybe player swapping, right? Combined draft pool, whatever, talent scouting that way. And then it could scale up obviously to a merger or to, even like the XFL acquiring the CFL, which I'm going to share my thoughts. I got a deep dive about this last night. I do think it is going to be more on the larger scale. I think with the announcement coming out that and Jay Noakes made sure to point out, Jay Noakes, he's one of the writers with XFL News Hub. He has sources in XFL. They have said, planning for the season is on hold, but the season is not necessarily delayed or postponed. That's what Jay's saying. That's what the XFL. I'm telling you, Reid of the Markcast. I think I do feel very worried about the 2022 season. I do, because I think that if this was just as simple as like, well, we're going to share some draft reports, or we're going to look at combined players, or we're going to figure out how to implement different social media or whatever, you're not putting the season planning on hold at this point. I think the fact that we are in March, we still don't have a CFO at all. Mike Mitchell, we're going to get to later in the show, has reported that search is also on hold. I think that we have no CFO, and the fact that now they're announcing this, I do very much worry about a February 2022 launch. Just me saying that.
I think that's this. The things that like now you start to process. Like it's been a rapid 24 hours of processing what's going on here, and I completely agree with you. I completely agree with you that the 2022 season is in danger. And now it leads me to believe that this has been going on for a while. Like these talks have been going on for a while, which is why we haven't had any news, which is why everything's been slow, why they haven't been hiring people. Of course, we pointed out last week there was a job post. That job post is now down. The Houston XFL content, whatever it was, that job is now down. It makes me wonder if this has been going on for a while. And that's now like, that's the speculation. There's going to be a ton of speculation in the next weeks, months, until they officially say, 2022 is off because we're waiting to, we're going to do this merger with the CFL. And I know the CFL was in trouble. They had to cancel the entire season. Of course, we talked about that when we broke that news to Chad Ochocinco. He was like, wow, really? He couldn't believe that they had canceled it. They tried to get aid from the Canadian government. I think it was like $30 million. Canadian government said no. So a lot of questions to be answered, and I share your sentiments that this is probably not going to go forward in 2022.
Yeah. I'm a terrible co-host. I didn't notice your wonderful XFL Markcast shirt.
I just barely got it today.
I didn't even notice. That is such a wonderful. I have my sweatshirt. Paul has it. I didn't even notice it. Sorry to go on a segue there. I thought, oh wow, Paul's so nice. You got the shirt. And here's kind of what I think, and we're going to get into. I've got some notes below about CFL Financials. The team is losing. They said on a good year, without a pandemic, some of the teams lose between $10 and $20 million, right? And so I've seen a lot of, CFL fans, upset and the rules and all this stuff. And, how are you going to merge the two? And how are you going to keep the, 3 downs and the goalposts and the wider field, all this kind of stuff. This is not me being an XFL mark at all, but I believe the CFL needs the XFL far more than the other way around. I think the fact that we just saw a Redbird Capital drop $750 million to buy 10% of Fenway, with the Red Sox and Liverpool and NASCAR and all that stuff. The fact that the CFL needed a $30 million loan last year to basically get through the pandemic in it was supposed to be a really shortened bubble season or whatever weird season last year. The fact that they couldn't get that, and here's Redbird dropping, 10 times that, 20 times that on just a 10% stake in something, tells me, I don't want to be that mark, right? Well, the XFL, whatever, but I do think that Danny, The Rock, the money behind them, and if this came up where Danny and The Rock had said, yeah, we're going to buy the XFL, we're going to do it, and then here since August, September, October, they thought, man, CFL financials are really low. Maybe we could acquire them too or partner that. And at least they're putting it on pause now. That's kind of where I'm at. And I do see them, I hope we don't delay the CFL season this year because I would like to have some football for us to cover here. I know we have TSL coming up. We have an update from Brian Woods later in the show. But that's my fear, is that like they bought this, they had that plan, and now it's like, oh, we could also do this other thing. And they are going to kick the can down to 2023 and make sure it's all good to go. That is my fear.
I can't disagree with you I can't disagree with you at all. I can't disagree with you at all. I think you're spot on, and I'm that there's a concern. There is a concern.
They talk, just the financials here. There's for example, with the CFL Financials, the Stampeders are one of 6 individually owned CFL franchises. Its ownership group, Calgary Sports and Entertainment, has assets that include the Calgary Flames and the lacrosse leagues. The other 3 teams are publicly owned by shareholders, and like I said, the teams collectively lose between 10 and 20 million. So it's kind of this mishmash where it's weird, where like part of it's owned and part of it has private ownership. They're losing money, and I was sent links last night to CFL radio talk shows, and they said it is clear that the CFL is out of money, and they have not announced what this season is going to look like for the CFL. They're supposed to be I know they've been signing players, Taylor Cornelius, they've been bringing in Jamie Elizondo, all these coaches and stuff from the XFL, but they haven't announced yet what their season's going to look like, and maybe they don't have the means to have a season this year. I mean, that's kind of where I'm at, and I'm wondering if the two are going to combine to kind of figure out something else.
I mean, in theory, if they're on life support, which we're assuming at this point that the CFL is on life support, it's a 108-year-old league, something like that. It's ridiculous how long they've been in existence. Maybe this is an emergency thing where Redbird floats them the money to get through the season, and then they acquire CFL. That's what I'm seeing. That's the conclusions I'm drawing, is that if the CFL does have a season this year, they're owned by Redbird. They seem to be in trouble.
Yeah, so. and I've seen a lot of fantasy stuff posted and sent to me. You could do these teams and they have like conference whatever moving back and forth. All these different fantasy things. I understand that the CFL has a 108-year tradition. That doesn't matter if you don't have the money to keep going. It doesn't matter. And like, not to be like crass about that, and not to be like, again, the XFL mark, whatever, it doesn't matter, right? Like, maybe if this had happened 6 months earlier, maybe Danny and the Rock would have bought the CFL. I mean, I don't know, it's at some point, they have the money and they have a vision to build a league. And if they're sitting there and they go, well, we're going to own this thing. They've always said they view the XFL. Jeffrey Pollock has said they view the XFL as a 100-year brand. Well, we talked, postponing to 2022. Well, do they really care again now? Danny and the Rock have all these other projects going on. They don't care about filling the XFL Markcast Google Doc every week with news. They're looking, hey, we can make, hundreds of millions of dollars, $1 billion on this, moving forward. We're like, maybe the plan wasn't initially all of this, but I think that is why they're putting this on hold.
I mean, also you have to look at the idea that this also helps with a TV deal. If they're going after a TV deal and they're saying we only have 8 teams, and then they turn around and say, oh, now we have 18 teams, 9 in each division, an XFL division and a CFL division. All of a sudden now, that TV deal becomes much more lucrative. And not only that, but like now you're also negotiating with a Canadian TV, like TSN or whatever they've got up there. Yeah. You're negotiating with Canadian TV to provide, you're basically double dipping at this point. Like you're getting an ESPN or a Fox Sports deal, and then you're getting a TSN or whatever else. I don't know what other Canadian sports. I just know TSN.
Yeah, TSN's the one I know.
Because they have the WWE. So you have that opportunity to double dip now and go, okay, we can go out and get, for example, the NHL just got a $200 million ESPN deal, which is great for the NHL because I think their product's been hurt dramatically by not being on ESPN in the last 17 years, if I'm being completely honest. So now they've got ESPN back, and something like this, I don't think you're talking like a $200 million a year deal for this. Maybe $100 million a year for this. Maybe. Combined with both Canadian and U.S. markets. So that's a potential to blossom that TV deal. That's that's the way the money is going to be made back on this thing, is if they get that lucrative TV deal.
Yeah, my fear is, if we are building like a continental football league, I think I heard Ron Peterson. Is that the guy's name? He's like a radio Canadian talk show host. I think he had floated that name. Keep the CFL, call it the Continental Football League or something. I do worry. At that point, if I want to be a fan of something and there's team, it's the same, goes back and forth. If I'm a Canadian guy, like, do I care about the Tampa Bay Vipers, or, if it's this whole spread out, moving players and, across, North America, basically. But that's kind of where I'm at. It just really depends how big Danny and The Rock want to build it. And I certainly think that their ambition is no lacking of anything. And like I said, if I'm Danny and I'm already the first woman professional sports league owner, and now I think, man, we can get a stake in this or take it over. But I don't think. I think whatever happens, I think the CFL needs the XFL way more at this point, and not necessarily the XFL. They just need the money. They need the money, and if the XFL has the money, it has nothing to do with who's got the better rules or who's got the longer life's 100-year legacy, whatever. It has to do with that.
Well, we already know who's got the better fields, because I've talked about it before. I've talked about it before on this podcast. The CFL fields, they wreak havoc on players' bodies. The turf is just terrible, and it's going to be interesting to see what's going forward. We have this clip. You want me to play this clip?
Well, a couple notes. So this is what we're speculating, right? This is speculation. Now, everything from the XFL is purely on having conversations, trying to figure it out. So again, we could be jumping the gun. This is just me having read through everything for the last 2 days. Danny was in the Calgary Herald. She was talking about basically how the furthest thing from the money has nothing to do with it. That everyone's going to have a lot of fun with speculation. When you talk about the money, they're deeply invested in adding innovation, opportunity, expanding the football experience. These are different quotes than were in like the XFL press release. I went. One of our listeners, Max, sent this in, and we dug this up. She talks about how Randy with the CFL has been working on expanding, bringing in players from other countries and things, and so they realized that they're kind of similar mindset, and so they wanted to combine. They said where this goes, we don't know. It's a conversation. It's an exploration. I understand all of that, but if you're talking about, okay, well, we might like also want to include other draft pools or whatever, you're not putting this season on hold, and maybe they already decided like, hey, we're not going to be ready for 2022. We're going to, we're doing this too. So like, this will be a good excuse. Like, people blame, hey, my business shut down. It was COVID's fault or whatever. Well, maybe now they're like, hey, we weren't going to be ready in 2022. We still don't have our CFO. Let's just put everything on hold, right? Like maybe a year and a half wasn't enough time when they purchased it in the first place.
I'm now thinking about reading what she's saying about having a conversation with CFL. If the CFL weren't in trouble, why did they pick up the phone to begin with?
Exactly.
Why did they pick up the phone? I'm telling you right now, if they weren't interested in having someone potentially even buy them out, I'm sorry, I'm going to say that. If they didn't have that, because we're speculating. Mm-hmm. It's clear to me that's the intent here. It's clear to me I'm assuming a lot. I know I'm jumping the gun, but it's clear to me that there is a genuine interest for Redbird and The Rock and Danny to buy the CFL. And they're saying it's a conversation. If the CFL was fine without the XFL, they wouldn't have picked up the phone.
And again, if this wasn't going to be in some way or form a landscape altering move, whatever it is, merger, acquisition, whatever, I don't think you put it on hold, or I don't even think you use those words. I don't even think Jeffrey Pollack, that was his quote. And again, everyone's freaking out about delays. I mean, I could see it being delayed. I know that people don't want to hear that. And we'd rather take something this year, whatever, but they might move it down the road. So I have this, this is a 1.5-minute clip, but this is Randy, the CFL commissioner on TSN with Rod Smith last night. This is a really good, and again, so this is opposite of what we're saying, but I want to present both sides of it. And hopefully I edited it down and it's easy enough for you to play via Dropbox.
Okay. Your final season as a player in 1993 was the beginning of an experiment the CFL had with teams based in the United States. That year, I believe it was just Sacramento. So you know what that experience was like as a player. Could this possibly lead to a point where CFL teams are playing XFL teams?
You know, Rod, your question's kind of really way ahead of where we are. You know, we are talking about talking today. You know, Rod, I should point out that this finger that I'm showing you, which is a little pointed or a little curved, is the byproduct of a game in Sacramento. So I have my own memories of that experience. But yeah, seriously, today was just to acknowledge that we want to have a conversation with each other. We wanted to make sure that our stakeholders knew we were talking. Where it ends, we don't know. But it is an exciting day for us and looking forward to where this might take us.
Yeah, and so along with this, it would be premature to ask you any questions about the future of Canadian football rules, 3 downs, the field size, the ratio, everything else. I guess you're saying there's no point to be asking about that right now.
Not right now, Rod. I mean, look, it is a really good moment for us to just acknowledge that we want to grow. That's the common DNA that underpins the discussions that we've had so far and will take us into future discussions. We're really wanting to embrace the idea of growth.
You're fine.
So that's it. So, you know, again, they're putting all this on, and he continues to say, you know, basically like The Rock social media equates the population of a small nation. And so if they can get any of that going, whatever. But, you know, he's saying all the right things, but again, and also great Canadian accent on him. But, you know, why even make a big deal about it if this isn't going to be some sort of landscape altering thing?
I honestly... What's the harm in like pushing this up then? If you're trying to downplay it, what's the harm now in going, screw it? Let's just get our intentions out in the open, and let's just say it so that people can get excited about it. So people can get already invested in the CFL teams that exist. If they're going to do a 2021 season, that would be a way to like possibly get revenues up. It, you know, there's so many ways to grow the CFL on the backs of this, and just maybe open up the floodgates. Maybe that's the solution.
I posted a poll here a couple hours ago before we started. I said, all right, now that we've had 24 hours, how are we feeling, XFL-CFL fans? Excited, neutral, nervous, upset. Most people are excited. There's some neutrals, not a lot of nervous, and then a few upset. So, you know, across the board, people seem to be very excited about this. But yeah, I agree. I would definitely be moving things and showing, you know, potential than play. I just don't get the point of like playing so coy with this. That's what I don't get with him being on here. And well, you know, this is just an acknowledgement of us having a conversation. And it seems weird to me that you would like make such a press release about that.
Get interest up now. It can't hurt. It can only help if you get interest going in the CFL now. If you get American fans invested in CFL teams and CFL football, it can only help your product. Open up the floodgates. Just let it all out.
We finally got The Rock finally acknowledged late yesterday. He posted on Instagram. He said, as an owner of the XFL, our discussions with the CFL have been very exciting. If you remember, you know, The Rock was the one that, you know, got cut from the CFL. The real pulse here is because you can feel the unique opportunity we can potentially create together. Wherever it leads, I can tell you, this one is personal to me and is driven by all my passion because me being cut by the CFL was the greatest thing that ever happened. It set me on the path that years later would lead me right back to the league.
Okay, stop. Am I reading in too much into that? Where he's saying it set me on a path that years later would lead me right back to the league? It seems like he's jumping to the conclusion that everybody else is jumping to. With that quote,
I said yesterday when all this came out, I said, is this like a Kill Bill 20-year long con of him coming back? Like, I'm going to get cut by the CFL and then come back, you know, buy the XFL just to buy. But yeah, no, I totally know what you mean. It's leading you right back. You know, leading back where? Dwayne, leading back for what?
It just seems like that comment is like, it's led me back to the league. And that's like a final kind of statement. That is a final kind of statement that's like, this is going to happen. So how is it bad for us to speculate, Danny, if your ex-husband, I should say, sorry, if your ex-husband is out there making that kind of statement that leads everyone to believe that this is a for sure thing?
So Mike Mitchell, he's the big XFL, he's like the big insider XFL, CFL guy. He had posted a big article last night. I highly encourage you if you're interested in this. It's the best one I've read so far, and that's not just because he's with us. In his article, he said the chief football officer search is also on pause temporarily, and that search has been ongoing. We still didn't have a CFO, and that he talked with one person about a potential merger, and they told him, quote, "Don't jump the gun yet. Talks are still developing and have advanced beyond the preliminary stages, but nothing is set in stone or finalized." And he said, just like Paul said, perhaps if the CFL wasn't in such financial peril, they wouldn't have answered the XFL's call to begin with. And that Randy the CFL commissioner, has recently talked about adapting and changing the league's business models. Desperate times call for desperate measures. Because I think the CFL has I was listening to this radio thing last night, the CFL has no young fans at all. It's basically all holdovers, our age and older, but they're having a very difficult time attracting young people that The Rock and Danny, really appeal to that demographic.
I saw this, and I want to kind of jump ahead a little bit. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers president and CEO Wade Miller has denied the CFL's new potential partnership with the XFLs due to league financial struggles. I have one thing to say about that, sir. Well, that didn't work.
Oh, did you have a sound effect?
Yeah, I had a sound effect.
Dan.
Sure, Dan.
There you go.
Yeah, I think, I think that I don't know. Again, they're losing money. They needed $30 million to get by last year. They didn't get that money, a loan from the government. People thought that was really weird that the Canadian government denied them that loan last year.
What's more important, though, getting a control on the pandemic or giving CFL money?
Yeah, that's true. Okay.
I mean, Canada played it smart in that way. They're like, we'd rather, get our people vaccinated and I talked to my friend Nigel, and we're going off on a tangent here, but he's like, the Canadian government isn't paying for our hotels either. So if we have to sequester in hotels, if we travel, we have to pay he said something like $1,500 a night.
Wait, what is this?
Canada's not financially supporting people that need to sequester in hotels for quarantine either.
Oh.
My friend Nigel lives up there.
Gotcha.
He's an actor, and he's like, if I travel out of country, then when I come back, I've got to spend 2 weeks in a hotel at $1,500 a night. Apparently, so I don't know what Canada's doing with the money. What are you doing, Trudeau? What are you doing?
A couple last things on this. We'll take a break before we get into everything else, I'm sure. Matthew Scianidi. I cannot say these names.
Scianidi?
With
Scianidi?
TSN Sports, he reported that the CFL's players, CFLPA was caught off guard by the announcement yesterday, and that they're having a meeting to discuss reaction and everything. I'm sure that's going to come out right when we post everything. Ross talked about that the commissioner talked about that on the show, the TSN show from the clip we played earlier tonight as well. He said that they did inform them, but that the word just hadn't reached all around yet, that they did send an email or call some of the heads of that before the big announcement came out. But it did seem a little rushed because there was the Alouettes thing, and it just wasn't all cohesive as I think they probably wanted it.
It seems like you would need a new collective bargaining agreement if this merger happens, by the way. And that would... And, we talked about how the XFL needs a player union. That might help XFL players, too, to get unionized in terms of joining up with the CFLPA.
Yeah. Huh. 2 last notes. Danny had an Instagram. You can play the game. You can pioneer the game to get there, create as many lanes as possible for collaboration, growth, opportunity, and innovation. So, she's really trying to, play coy with it. But I think
the messaging is there. The messaging is there for me. So
in that they're looking for acquisition
and Fan Control Football, stop this.
Oh, this was so I retweeted this about 4 times because this should never be forgotten at all. Fan Control Football had the worst tweet I've ever seen, and they wrote XFL plus CFL is less than Fan Control Football with the arms up, and First off, like you said earlier, all of these leagues should get along. All of these leagues should play nice. There is, many of the people that are watching Fan Control Football would have been watching XFL right now if the league was going on. And even the comments on this were atrocious against Fan Control Football, basically being like, yeah, you guys know that you have all the same fans, like all the same fans.
You're alienating.
Yeah, it's really bad. It's really off. Comment. I had tweeted when they said that. I go, meanwhile, so while the CFL and XFL are potentially looking at an international, cross-brand relationship of some kind, Fan Control Football is tweeting about voting on the coach's outfit for this weekend and earning points that you'll be able to get like a power up in the game. So that was what they were focused on when Danny, The Rock, CFL, Jeffrey Pollock, everybody was working on, potentially, landscape altering move here in football.
Fan Control Football, why don't you work on, standardizing the rules game by game, minute by minute? Why don't you work on that?
Yeah. So
do you want to talk about that, by the way? Fan Control Football? People unfollowing you on Twitter?
Well, let's get through all that. Do you want to take a break? We'll get through the XFL, rest of the stuff, and then we'll do Fan Control.
By the way, it's awesome now because our podcast distributor is allowing us 3 commercials per break. So we can get through our commercials a little. We don't have to take as many breaks. You have to listen to more commercials. I apologize for that. But of course, if you're on YouTube, you subscribe to us on YouTube,
no ads.
You don't have those commercials.
Yeah.
So enjoy these. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Markcast, this potential CFL Markcast. We have to change our logo and everything if this happens.
That is a fear. I know we have do I have to be CFL Mark on Twitter? I don't know what that looks like. I really hope they keep the branding. I really hope they keep the XFL branding at this point.
Maybe it's XFC, the XF conference. I don't know.
Well, I do honestly the calling it Continental Football League. I do think has a lot of
you're still using the letters.
Yeah, keep the CFL and call it Continental Football League. I think is something.
I'm here for it.
Just some other stuff. XFL. A lot of again. I had a whole show going here. We were going to do Zoa energy drinks and stuff. We'll do that still. They're coming. I ordered Paul and I both Zoas. Former XFL referee. Maya Chaka, she became the first Black female official in NFL history. She had worked in the XFL before. She'd also worked in Pac-12. Even my mother, Mama Markcast, had tweeted me. She goes, "Hey, did you hear about Maya?" And I go, "Yep, I got it on the Google Doc." So, any thoughts on that?
Well, I don't want to disparage I don't want to disparage any official right now. But if you come from the Pac-12 and you got out of the Pac-12. Maybe it's because you're actually good at your job, because Pac-12 officials are some of the worst officials in the history of all sports. It doesn't matter, football or basketball. Pac-12, you ask any Pac-12 fan, and they will tell you how bad the officials are. So congrats to Maya to getting out of that bad situation in the Pac-12.
Yep.
That's what I got to say.
Something interesting here. These are all topics that could have been, whole segments of the show. The Ravens had submitted a proposal for a booth umpire, a 8th official sky judge to the NFL, and presented it to competition committee hearings this week with the backing of the coaches subcommittee. What does having an independent sky judge to review plays sound like from a former spring football league, Paul? Any ideas? This is what the XFL did last year. The XFL had an independent sky judge with an Xbox controller that looked at all the plays. So, NFL, they had the sky cam when the XFL kicked off in 2001. They took the sky cam from them. They did all that. It is very interesting that the NFL now is, and they've been working on this for a couple of years. I mean, it's not that the XFL was the first one that ever thought of this, but the XFL implemented it really well. And it seems like NFL is taking note again.
XFL moving the game forward, and the NFL just taking the good parts. And it's like Apple. You know how companies these days come out with innovations, and then Apple goes, "We like your innovation. We're going to make it a little bit better."
Yep.
And I think that's what's happening here. So,
just a couple updates. Everyone remember back when people were like, they're delaying the season, they're not announcing XFL stuff because of the logo updates. And now we find out that that's fair. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on. The logos have been extended again, even though they were done being extended. The oil tower extended through April 7th. And the Patriots logo is currently going to come up on March 30th, but it's expected to be pushed back until April 29th. So thank you, Max, listener of the show, for getting me those dates when I needed them. But anyway, so if you're still on they're not announcing the CFO because of the logo updates, that is what's going on.
Okay. I just change logos.
Yeah, I know. Well, this now we might not even have. It might be the Canadian Roughnecks or whatever,
right?
the Winnipeg, whatever. At Fox Sports landed Bob Stoops. He's going to replace Urban Meyer on the pregame show. Do you have any thoughts on this?
I like Bob Stoops. He's a great mind for the game. I'm critical of Urban Meyer anyway. I don't think it's going to last too long in Jacksonville. I think Urban Meyer, his tendency to allow like the whole situation where he allowed that guy that I guess it was a weight conditioner or weight training guy. I don't know how long Urban's going to last in Jacksonville to begin with. But Bob Stoops got a great mind for the game, relatively young. Is going to add some great insight to that pregame show. So I'm all in favor of this. Yep. I like Bob Stoops a lot.
People are worried. They were saying, hey, could he still coach and then do the thing because college football's in the fall? Yeah, I mean, he could definitely still do both. I don't know if Bob Stoops wants to go back to the XFL. I mean, he's certainly open. The funniest comment, I posted this in one of the Facebook groups. There's literally a Facebook group called like the Bob Stoops Army. And I posted this and someone was like, who cares about Bob Stoops? And they're like, dude, you're in the
literal Bob Stoops Army. Literally the name of the... Come on.
Yeah. But anyway, I mean, at this point, I don't know if the XFL is playing February to whatever. Maybe they're moving to the CFL schedule. I mean, you can't play February football in Canada. That is going to be a little tricky.
March? Maybe you can't even play March. It's really cold in Canada, like in April.
Yep.
It's kind of cold there.
The bankruptcy thing, it sounds like it's all moved through now, which would make sense if that kind of ended on Friday. They canceled the hearing. We had talked about the hearing that was going to happen. They canceled it basically because there was no objection. So they just paid off kind of the last like legal professionals. Would kind of make sense that would end Friday last week. And then this week they would talk about the CFL stuff. So I don't, blue hat, tinfoil hat theory, whatever. Does that make sense? Do you kind of see why that would happen this week?
Totally. Also, I do what I can whenever I see something that pops up. Of course, Reid put so much time into this podcast. He was already on it, and I appreciate that. Chargers decided not to franchise tag Hunter Henry, which means what, Reid? Which means what?
It means they could have faith in 6'8", or as I called him previously on the show, 7 foot tall Donald Parham. He's only 23, but he's killing it.
The Chargers have a good track record with tight ends, of course, Antonio Gates. Donald Parham is a freak of nature. He's a great player, and it's good to see this kid get a really big shot here because that's what we're talking about speculation earlier. That's more than speculation to me. That tells me the Chargers have found their guy with Donald Parham. So kudos to Donald. Glad he's getting a real look.
It says he runs a 4'6", 7 foot wingspan and a 36-inch vertical leap.
So he's basically more than 7 feet. That's what we're talking about here. If he's got a 7 foot wingspan and can jump 3 feet, you're talking about a guy that can, what's the average here? I'm trying to do the math. You're talking about a guy who can jump 12 feet in the air. And if you throw a ball 12 feet, no one else is catching that but him.
2 notes on June Jones here. He was making the rounds on Fox News this week talking about CFL and XFL and NBA. I don't know why June Jones is just always popping up. He's trying to keep his name out there. There's speculation. Is he being brought back in? This again would have been topics for a whole nother show. He was talking about how this was his quote. It was funny. He thinks that the XFL is preferable for U.S. players over the CFL because and this is according to June Jones, I think they are still dealing with the bankruptcy. I think there's some unfinished business there. Until they get it done, I don't know where they can get started. I know last year I was a coach. I was hired in June, but pretty much all the coaches were hired in March and April. He was talking kind of about the timeline. And this was, again, back before kind of all the speculation came out with the CFL stuff this week. But he does think that the play in the XFL is going to be better than the CFL. He also had hot takes about the NBA becoming more like the NFL becoming more like the NBA with players jumping around. Do you agree with that?
Well, what we talk about, there's all these no trade clauses that have now been entered into NFL contracts. They've been in NBA contracts for a while where, you talked about how the Paul George thing happened with the Clippers, how Paul George only waived his no trade clause for certain teams. And we're talking about that now with Russell Wilson, where there's only certain teams he's going to waive his no trade clause for. And I prediction he's going to end up in Chicago. I think it's going to happen. I think he's going to end up in Chicago.
God, that's going to cost him just the world.
Chicago or Seattle? Well, Seattle, because they're going to have that dead cap space too.
Well, I think what are the Bears going to? I mean, they're going to have to offer the whole world.
Khalil Mack is definitely coming over. They're going to rebuild the difference. Think about a defense with Khalil Mack, Bobby Wagner, and KJ Wright if he comes back. That's a solid defense. You bring Sherman back for another couple years. You have him retire as a Seahawk. Yep. You got to win games defensively. And that offensive line, Russell Wilson's contract is structured in a way that offensive line is not going to get any better. So you got to win games with defense at this point. And just, I don't know if it's a Nick Foles situation coming to Seattle or if it's a Mitch Trubisky situation coming to Seattle. God. Of course, I'm a big Nick Foles mark. I've said that numerous times. But yeah, I think Russell's done in Seattle. I really do. It's looking like it's the end.
It's looking like it. The last just note, we're not covering Young Rock, but the Young Rock had the largest digital launch of any NBC comedy ever. And this is I only bring this up to talk about the impact that the Rock's brand has. It had 11.8 million viewers. The season premiere or series premiere. It's accumulated because it's been a couple weeks now, and that includes Hulu and the NBC app and Peacock. But 11.8 million people watched this dumb show, and it was the lower only to This Is Us season premiere last fall. So the Rock, it's really hard to debut new shows nowadays. They also have started replaying the Young Rock after WWE, and it's the highest rated post WWE show in nearly a year, which would make sense that if you're NBC, I would want to get some of those wrestling fans carried over to Young Rock.
Interesting. I mean, we got to put that in context, though. I mean, how many shows digitally have been launched on Peacock since Peacock started? This is probably the first one, right?
It's cool.
The first comedy.
Yeah, but anyway, it's just good. I like seeing that The Rock is making moves and getting viewers and all that stuff.
All right, you talked to Brian.
Brian Woods. I sent him an email again this week. Wanted to get the update on the spring league. He goes, at this point, the only news to release is the tryouts. Of course, I mean, go figure. They're trying to coordinate all of their efforts with Fox. So, I mean, Markcast is not quite into the level of Fox Sports right now. He says their player selection meeting is going to be taking place the first week of April. And so he wants to come on that week. But he did say, and this was a note, Kenny, I hope you're listening, Kenny. He goes, by the way, I thoroughly enjoy listening to your podcast. You're doing a great job with it. Brian, if that is true, where the F is our Chasters merch? If you're listening to the show. That is still going to be the first question I ask him when he comes on in April. But anyway, so they're working on that. So we'll see what the CFL stuff goes. I mean, we might be really heavy on Spring League. We'll see. Really curious where all that ends up. So,
all right. Do you want to take another break, bring our guest on, or do you want to get through this other jargon about the fan control?
Do you want to just do fan control and see if Braden hops on?
Yeah, why not?
I think that's clear.
Let's take a quick break again. Yeah. Pay the bills, as we say, and then let's see if we can bring what's happening in the Google Doc.
I'm just moving that there. There we go.
Oh, got it. Okay. Let's take another break. And then hopefully Brayton will just join us in the middle of our chats about fan control football. We'll be right back. As I say on Wheelhouse all the time.
Oh, I haven't.
By the way,
huh?
I got it just this morning.
It's good.
I heard a knock on the door and before we started the podcast. I was like, it would mean a lot to Reid if I went and checked the door to see if that was a shirt. It was the shirt. I also have a Wheelhouse hat now. I finally got one of those. I don't know why I didn't have that before, but I decided to wear this to brighten your spirits.
Thank you. I ordered. We have new XFL Markcast hats. Similar. I've been wearing my Wheelhouse hat recently, both on the podcast and off. But we did get a XFL Markcast cap too, so that should be coming. It got shipped out the other day, so it should be coming.
We've had those for a while. I just haven't been public.
Yeah,
because you wanted the flat back, snapback, brim ones, and a friend of Wheelhouse, Chris Vitale, really good guy over Ball 9. He does a lot of like old school baseball stuff.
Chris.
He said his Wheelhouse hat is one of the most comfortable hats he owns.
It's really nice.
And you like it. So we rolled out an XFL Markcast version of the same hat. Buy that now. at xflshow.com/merch.
Yeah, it's a fantastic hat. Talking about merch, I will say, I don't know if you are in this boat as well, please DM me XFL Mark on Twitter. I ordered my Fan Control football jersey the very first day that they were announced. The very first day. This was like 5 weeks ago now. I still do not have it. I have messaged Patrick about it. He is supposedly has talked to a champion. I know I'm not the only one. And yeah, speaking of Fan Control football, all management with the league has unfollowed the show on Twitter. I take that as a sign that, obviously they're probably not happy with some of the comments. We are obviously going to continue at least covering it at least through this season. We have Braden coming on today. And I think we are advocates for the players and are advocates for football, and that's fine with me. What do you think?
We want to like this league, Patrick. We want to promote this league, but we have to be critical when things need to be criticized. And I'm sorry if the management doesn't feel like that's supportive. I think it is supportive to be completely honest and transparent with how our feelings are on how this league is being ran. Changing the effing rules from minute to minute, game to game is wrong. And if you don't like us being critical of this, then guess what? Maybe you need to listen to people outside of this echo chamber of people that are just, for lack of a better term, licking your boots. They're just telling you this is great, no matter what you give them. They're not doing any service to you by being completely, yes men. They're not doing any service to you. If you listen to somebody that's critical of you, maybe you can get a different perspective, a different viewpoint, and get outside your myopic echo chamber and realize that there are some things you need to standardize. You can't just change things on the fly because one game it sounds like it's great, the other game it doesn't.
Well, and I've always said I think there's a difference between hating on something and constructively critiquing. And I feel like I give all of my criticisms come with suggestions. Again, you don't have to listen to me. I know this week there was an N-word dropped on the broadcast by Marshawn Lynch, not a member of the broadcast booth. We have said before on here, I'm critical of vulgar language being used on a Twitch stream. I think that you would want to attract the largest demographic you possibly can. You can disagree with that. You can say the S word. You can say the F word. I think Marshawn Lynch saying the N word, I think crosses a line. I had tweeted that and I was going to say, friend of the show, now no longer, Patrick had, and to his credit, I always give credit. I think Patrick is one of the best people they have publicly. He goes, yeah, I understand this was on Twitter. Look, it wasn't from the broadcast team. We aren't going to stop having guests. All we can do is request that they support our standards and try to do better. I appreciate that. I appreciate him reaching out. It was 2 a.m. in Atlanta when he responded to my tweet about that. I think, for all the good that Patrick does with the broadcast, I think Ray Austin does the opposite. I think Ray Austin is horrendous on the broadcast booth. I think you cannot have somebody that is the commissioner of the league hiring and firing, refs, players. You would imagine he's in control of all of that stuff. Also, openly complaining about the rules, about the refs, about players dropping balls and all that stuff. I think
and being completely I remember the one game I watched, he was like, I told you about this guy. I told you, being fans of players is great privately, but publicly, when you're the commissioner of the league and you're extolling the virtues of these players, it's like Roger Goodell would never go and say Tom Brady's the GOAT.
Yeah.
Roger Goodell would never say it. Adam Silver would never say, I can't even pronounce his name. I'll just say LeBron James. LeBron James better than Michael Jordan. Adam Silver would never say that. By the way, Adam, you need to give Seattle an NBA team back. Immediately. Moving on.
Anyway, so what did you watch the games this week? What did you think of the what they're calling now the onside kick game, where we had about 87 onside kicks that made them change the rules in between games?
Again, why? What set this up at the beginning of the year? I know this is a beta version, but it's a beta version that's allegedly better than the XFL and CFL combined, right?
Well, and also it's a beta version now that, and this is a point I just thought of. they are getting viewers, right? They had the stats posted before the game. They've had 3 million live video views, 900,000 live draft picks and plays called. They're the most watched English sports channel on Twitch, the most live, sports channel on Twitch. What'd you say?
Yada, yada, yada.
Yeah. But anyway, and you're bringing in, Josh Gordon and Johnny Manziel and all this stuff. And so you're getting millions of viewers and then you're learning on the fly. So that I would say like, that's almost counterintuitive to me. It's like, well, we want to bring in SportsCenter and we want to bring in these millions of viewers and we want to bring in all this publicity, but then also like watch us like learn as we grow here. Does that seem weird?
It does. I mean, there's so many things they could have done, like testing before this even launched. And I think this is part of the testing thing. By the way, speaking of the N-word, how many F words did Bob Menery drop the other night too?
It's bad. It's really bad.
Was like F, F, F. And his voice, I was making fun of his voice to Reid, and it was like, he was dropping, there were like F words every other word with Bob Menery too. Sorry, I forgot about that, but it brought me back.
Yeah, I mean, it just, again, I get wanting to bring, I mean, they've had tremendous viewership. They had 40,000 concurrent the whole time. It's been tremendous. It's been a success from a viewership standpoint, without a doubt, unmitigated success. They should be happy with that. But again, you're learning on the fly while you're bringing in all these viewers. They had this first game, it ended 56-52. They had all these onside kicks. It basically broke the game because the thing was the fans had voted at the beginning of the season, can we do onside kicks like anytime we want when we're trailing? There was a couple different options, and the fans voted. Every time, we want to be able to do onside kicks anytime we want. Well, then what they finally figured out this week, it took them 4 weeks to figure out, well, we can break the game by scoring, doing an onside kick, where it's not a traditional onside kick. You have to it's like 4th and 10. So as long as you can get 10 yards in the arena football thing, like you're going to get the first down. So they basically broke the game. And they're like, well, we're just going to score and then do a first down and score and do a first down, score and do a first down. And so they launched the poll like midway through the game. They're like, yeah, we need to like change this rules, which I totally agree. But
that's fine. But
I think anybody could have seen that being a problem from the beginning. I think. And also I think then Matt, friend of the show, he had tweeted that, for the second time now, the Zappers have gotten to play by more fair rules simply by playing the second match of the night. Right. So like because they changed, they changed the timing rule before and then they changed this. So just because you're the second game, you almost get like a better chance of winning.
Got it. Makes sense. Like you get the bugs worked out in the first game. And then it's like kind of like how they want to view this as a video game. Your alpha version comes out, it has a bunch of bugs. And then you get to play the beta version, which has the bugs worked out. And then you have better chances of beating that because you don't have errors.
Renee Montgomery was on the halftime show. I thought she was by far the best owner they have by just a mile. I think Renee is such an advocate. I think she, having been brought in late, is one of the best people that they brought in. I know that Marshawn gets the eyeballs, but if you're going to bring in someone like him, and then you're going to have to worry about, the potty mouth, for lack of a better word, I think Bob Menery comes on. It's like he's at the casino watching stuff in the background and trying to comment on the game. Like if you're going to bring people into the game and have these owners be involved and invested, like have them be invested.
I agree. And Renee's been a big cheerleader so far and been great for this. And she's been very active on Twitter. I don't know about Richard Sherman's involvement with it. Miro's a coward.
Yeah.
And Renee's been very active with people on Twitter in terms of not just this, but in terms of what she's doing. Of course, she's now retired. She's part of the ownership group for the Atlanta Dream. We commend her on that. Renee's been a great advocate for all things sports. Not gender specific, just all things sports that she is touching. She's been a big advocate for, and it's been great to see. It's been great to see for sure.
Yeah, Josh Gordon won the game. I'm looking up Robert Turbin. He's going to be he's in the bubble right now. He just came on today. He wasn't able to play last week. Josh Gordon did play. He won the game-winning touchdown from Braden, who's going to be on here. So, they're getting that. Supposedly Manziel's going to be back this week. So, of course, Marchie and Braden are probably going to get the back burner to that. So I'm kind of interested to see how that goes. If the Zappers are going to have 3 quarterbacks, what's that going to be like? The Zappers are 0-2 with Manziel leading the game. They won this week 32-26. And then next week is going to be the playoffs. The Beasts have voted to play the Glacier Boys. That was a fan vote. And then the Wild Aces are going to be playing the Zappers. So we're getting, I think it's going to be, what is that? A week of playoffs and then the championship, right? If you have, so.
When you want to play the Glacier Boys, they're terrible.
They're terrible. I mean, we're getting to the end of the season. We'll be doing some soul searching about covering stuff. I hate to cover stuff out of obligation, but if they're pushing XFL and CFL, I mean, we're really going to have to see. We're really going to have to do soul searching as a podcast to see what we're going to do.
I completely agree.
Did you see this viewership at the bottom? They have 1.2 million viewers on Twitch. The highest before was 826,000 viewers. And they said, for context, XFL in week 4 last year averaged 1.37 million viewers on traditional TV networks. What do you say about that?
I was told the FCF was better than the XFL and CFL combined. That tells me it's not.
Well, they're pointing out that, on Twitch.
This is hating. You put a stupid tweet out there. Now you're seeing what hating's like. This isn't being critical. You put a stupid tweet out there, and now I'm hating. Now I'm hating.
No, I mean, again, it's tremendous viewership. I just don't know. I wouldn't be boasting about the viewership and then also struggling to, get the games across. The last note on here, and hopefully we'll time this out if Braden hops on. An anonymous source, this came up on Twitter this week, that one of the fan accounts had created a test, because the whole thing is you vote, you get points, and you get, you call the plays, and you get, it's like power-ups, whatever. And they had created a test account and had basically become the 5th highest account in like an hour just by voting on stuff online. That like all these things that people are going on to earn, that they were able to just like vote on stuff through the app. Hack it, I guess.
Yeah. Huh.
So yeah, Patrick, of course, was right on it and said that he was going to take care of it. But it's just one of those things. Like, we're working the bugs out. You want to really push this fan engagement, and like push the power ups and push all this stuff. And then if you're going to have problems, people get upset. I mean, I certainly sympathize for management. I think that it's hard to deal with, yelling voices at you. And of course, in our case, they've chosen just to turn that yelling voice off.
Right. With that being said, we're going to wait for Brayden. We're going to take another quick commercial break for our podcast distributors on the audio side. I'll come right back. We'll have Brayden here on the Markcast. Congratulations on throwing the game-winning touchdown. I know all the love went to Josh Gordon for catching it. Congratulations on throwing the game-winning touchdown. What's been the reaction like for you after that?
Well, first of all, thank you. I throwing it once is one thing, and then throwing it to a guy like Josh Gordon is another thing in itself. But I've kind of, there's been a lot of jokes going around. Oh, I'm the Hail Mary King, just give him 5 seconds and, that's all he needs, stuff like that. But really, I've just been, super blessed and fortunate enough to be throwing to guys like Travis and Josh, who can both go up and get a ball and, be that athletic, but other than that, I mean, it's been pretty cool to see, obviously seeing the play pop up on different, Instagram pages and things like that. It's kind of cool to see that.
It was on Sports Center, man.
Yeah,
Sports Center.
Yeah, the first one, yeah, for sure. That was cool. I didn't really expect that to happen, but yeah, that was awesome. Got a lot of love from people back home too. So I always appreciate that as well.
When I tweeted at you, I asked you, because I've been working at my day job before this week. Have you had a lot of chances to hop on media stuff from the game last Saturday till today when you're talking to us?
What do you mean, like looking on like Instagram and things like that?
Like, have you been on other podcasts and stuff?
Oh, so I've only been on one other podcast, and it's a guy down in Florida, and I've been on his twice. But other than that, I know I haven't really been, like nobody besides you guys have really reached out as far as that goes.
Well, see, and that's why I asked, because we've been critical of Fan Control Football. We've followed them the whole way through. We've had Patrick on and Chase Baker, and we've had Greg Miller on. We've had all this stuff, and when I see this touchdown and I saw the tweet go out, the Fan Control Football, Josh Gordon with the game-winning touchdown, and I think you had retweeted it with the arms up, because you weren't included in that, right? But to me, I look at that because we've been critical about NFL players coming in and taking the spotlight, taking spots, whatever. What do you think about that? Are you guys excited to have Josh be a part of it? Johnny Manziel, I know that you won the game when he was out. What are your thoughts when it comes to the NFL stuff? And it's okay if you're positive or not. I'm just really curious what your thoughts are. Yeah, no, and honestly, that wasn't really like a shot at anybody for, I'm not searching for credit or anything like that. Honestly, I think having Josh here and having Johnny here has been I would say beneficial to us for the most part. It's drawn more eyes to us, so maybe that can lead for more opportunities, even if it's not for myself, but for other people in the league. I think overall it's been pretty positive. So that tweet wasn't really I did that emoji because during the one-on-ones I did it at the camera, and I had some people react to that after I threw a ball. So that's kind of been my thing. That definitely wasn't I'm not searching for any kind of credit, because obviously without Josh Gordon with a guy, he had a guy hang on his arm and still came down with the ball, so I'm not too concerned with, my personal fame. Obviously if it's enough to get me to, continue to play, then great. But, I'm not really hunting for that. What's it been like so far? We're day 60 now, something in the bubble, right? What's it been like? What's been just your experience with the league? I mean, I'm glad that really we had Jordy on before, really talking with the players that are there and have been through it from the beginning. Yeah. It's been a grind. I'm not going to lie. The first few weeks, especially during camp, was a grind, going twice a day. Coach Jenkins style, going 2.5, 3 hours of practice, twice a day. And then, you've got meetings in the morning, meetings at night, and new plays coming in. I mean, it felt like my college camp in a certain way. And, I haven't been in the NFL, but there's guys here that said, this is every bit of, what we were doing when I was in the pros. And, so I can appreciate that, for sure. With all the coaches here, I think there's a lot of football knowledge. There's a lot of football wisdom here. So even if guys don't go to the league after this, I think for those who want to coach or give back to the game in any way, I think it's been great. And this is the first league in a while that's sprung up and actually maintained itself. Obviously COVID, the XFL last year was doing really well. That kind of, they can't control that. I'm sure the XFL would have continued to go, and I'm sure that they'll have success, in their seasons moving forward. But, overall, I think it's been a great experience for me. Even if I don't go play anywhere else, even if this is my last football, I'm super happy that I came.
Good to hear. So you do definitely have your eyes set on potentially, maybe trying out for an NFL team, possibly when the XFL. We discussed it earlier in the podcast. There's been some some news to where they potentially might delay due to a CFL partnership. Mm-hmm. You definitely have your eyes set on that. What intrigues you about going to that level?
I've always, from the time I was a kid, this is going to sound cliche, but I dreamed of being able to play, at the highest level possible. I went to a small school, a D3 school in Indiana, and, I won't say that I gave up on that dream, but playing D3 ball, it's not exactly you don't have a lot of guys that make it, and so my senior year, when I started getting some looks from some NFL teams, and I was like, okay, maybe I can, play at that level. And then coming here, and there's there's guys that have played in the CFL, played in the XFL, played in the NFL, played a lot of indoor ball or like whatever it may be, and seeing that I'm right there with these guys, giving me a boost of confidence. So having the opportunity to go play for a CFL or XFL, or who knows what'll happen there, as far as them teaming up somehow. I'm not sure. I did see that headline yesterday, that they were meeting up to discuss some options or something like that. I think that would be really interesting. I would 100% be up for, trying out for that, or, even if I'm just going to have the opportunity to be a camp arm for an NFL camp, that's something I would 100% do. That's just something that I've been striving for. And now that I'm closer than I've ever been, I guess, having the exposure that we do. So I'm just doing my best every day to try to get better, in case that opportunity comes.
We've been critical is a light word on here for, some of the rule changes between games and stuff. We know it's a beta league. We know they're working on stuff. As someone that's playing in that, has that been challenging where, like the clock is different on one game versus the other, the, onside kicks and stuff? Just as someone that's like actually trying to deal with it, is that a challenge or is that just water to the bridge?
We've kind of just had to roll with it. I'm sure other guys would have other opinions, but I'm at the point where I understand this is FCF 1.0. This is the first time we're going around, but it has been frustrating having to, as players, learn along each game. Like, okay, you can do that, or they can use a power up here, and this is why, and this is a power up that we can actually use. So it's like we didn't really know. I didn't know any of the power-ups. I knew that the fifth down was going to be a thing, but like we didn't know much beyond, as far as uniqueness goes. We didn't know much beyond the extra points of one-on-one. Like we after that, at least, speaking for myself, I didn't know much beyond that. So like I said, that was a little frustrating, but at the same time, I am aware, and I'm sure that season 2 will improve. Season 3 will be even better, So I'm not going to be too critical on it. I understand that it takes a lot to make a league like this work. So, I'm again just happy to be here and happy to roll with whatever they throw at us this week.
When we talk about those rule changes on the fly, as a player, do you feel like you have an avenue to express potential criticisms within the bubble to your coaches, to management, to the commissioner? Do you have that avenue to discuss these things with the higher ups?
That's a good question. I would say so for sure. I won't say that I'm, like best friends with any guys like in operations or any, but I talk to these guys every day, Commissioner Reid in a lot of our Zoom meetings, so we have the ability to speak freely. So I'm sure that if it may take 2 or 3 guys, it may take 40 guys, 50 guys to, if they feel strongly. I'm sure that the league and everyone in operations and the executives of the league, I'm sure that they would listen. And they do make it pretty easy. If I really felt like I wanted something different, or if something needed to change, then I have the phone numbers of people that I could reach out to, who, if they couldn't change it, they could get me to somebody who I could speak to about it. So they have made that possible, which is pretty cool, I think.
In terms of just having gone through all this, season 2 comes about, they're talking about 3 months on, or 3 months off and then coming back again. If asked, would you participate in that? And what's been your experience so far with that?
Yeah, so we've heard different things, I think the goal is to, be the focus of sports. Obviously, like with the XFL not being able to come back yet, we were the only teams. We were the only pro football going. So if they came back, took three months off, whatever, I would definitely consider it. I haven't had too much. What's the word? I haven't had too many teams reach out. I've had a couple indoor teams reach out to me about playing. Starting early this summer. So I'm considering that, but I would definitely also consider coming back. We've had the discussion just between players. If COVID, didn't exist, how would this be ran? And then also if they expand to more teams, then there are more players, potentially more money, potentially, there's a lot of different things that could go into that. So I would definitely consider that myself. I wouldn't say I would jump on immediately, but once things settle as to the finalization of FCF 2.0, I would definitely look into it.
Yeah, I hope that the goal is we've talked with people offline. The pay and everything for the games. I don't. Comparable, to other leagues and stuff. I hope if the vision is for you guys to be able to move into like indoor leagues. I know that I was reading an article about you this morning. You were talking about going into arena, one of the arena teams before they called you for the fan controlled. I just want to make sure if you guys, have the opportunities to go elsewhere or whatever, you feel like you're getting the visibility from this or something out of this, right? I mean, you feel like whether it's money or exposure, we covered the spring league and the whole point of that is just players to get tape, right? To go other places. And so, do you feel like you're leaving here with more than you came in terms of exposure and money and all that sort of stuff?
I would say so. Yeah, for sure. The money, it is what it is. It's not a ton of money, but from what I understand, it's more than I was going to get, prior to coming here. It depends where you go. It depends who you play for as far as indoor leagues go. But definitely, exposure wise, this is my first year playing any sort of pro football. I've got some pro film under my belt now. So if, I'm actually working on putting a little highlight tape, if you will, together so that I'll have that on Twitter for any scout, anybody that would, be interested in that. I'm sure my agent would, disperse that as well. But yeah, I would definitely say that I've improved as a player, for sure. I would say, getting to play with these athletes, like I said before, a lot of these guys are solid athletes, obviously. So I think, competing with and against, these corners, like I said, I was a small school guy. There's not many corners that I played against, maybe a couple, but these corners and DBs are definitely better than the ones that I've played. So I would say that I've improved. And if that's all that I got out of this was improved, then I think it was worth it.
Absolutely. Well, we wish you the best of luck. Like I said, just seeing these highlights. I want to, I always like giving credit where credit's due. And I know that some of the guys are getting some of the big flashy headlines and stuff, but we always want to make sure that, 98.9% or whatever of the players in the league are, players like you trying to get exposure, trying to get play time. So I appreciate you coming on. And if there's anything that we can do to help you, facilitate that moving forward, let us know.
Definitely.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I enjoyed it.
Thanks,
Brayden. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thanks, man. Have a good day.
Want to thank Braden Smith for dropping in and saying hi and chatting about his experience so far with fan control football. Really nice, humble kid. Definitely looking forward to seeing a lot of great things from him in the future. Potentially maybe, in an arena football league, maybe in fan control football 2.0, maybe even in the CFL, XFL merger thing that's going to happen. Possibly going to wait. Can't draw conclusions, but
Yeah, I appreciate that. Again, that was the whole idea this week was just, I like giving credit. We see he's won the last two games, and I want to never forget that you might have the big names and the former Seahawks and Marshawn Lynch involved and Richard Sherman, whatever. But, a bulk of the league is put up by kids right out of college or, people that are trying to get opportunities. And so I always want to make sure that we give spotlights to them as well. So,
all right. So again, we got to plug this Brayton Reid's week every week. Log on, xflshow.com/YouTube, subscribe, like our videos, leave us a comment. Let us know what you like about it. xflshow.com/review, review the show on all the podcast format distributors, and also xflshow.com/merch. You can buy one of these cool little shirts that I've got on, one of the hoodies that Reid's got on. Of course, the new comfortable hats that Reid bought for himself. Those are also online, xflshow.com/merch.
I'm it. That's all I got.
We'll see you guys next week. Well, Well, Reid will see you next week. I will be absent, getting the oral surgery done. So Reid will see you next week, and maybe Reid will bring a special guest host in that will do way better than I could ever do, and I'll just be replaced, and that'll be the end of that.
Yeah, I mean, Paul's basically playing through handicap right now. I mean, it's like, it'd be like playing through a bum ankle or something. I mean, Paul's really podcasting through the world of hurt right now.
It hurts when I talk. That's the worst thing about it, having a serious tooth injury, is like it hurts when I talk. And hopefully I had my B game today instead of my A game. So we appreciate all your listeners, all the watchers on YouTube. We appreciate you. And Reid will see you next week.